signs suck, don't vote for them, it's the person that you need. Can't trust a piece of paper colored right for you to read. Let's look past the clutter, take a hack at what is true. Yard signs suck, don't vote for them, they don't think for you. Voices blending, melodies ascending, harmony in the air. Our songs are never ending, in the barber shop we create magic. Brad and John show, yeah, it's pure classic. No instruments needed, just our vocal range. Notes flying high, it's our musical exchange. Tracy's station may try, but they can't compete. Our barbershop style, it can't be beat. Oh, the harmony of voices, so sweet. In the barbershop of life, our tunes will repeat. No need for instruments, no need for a band. Just the Brad and John show, the finest in the land.
John, you know, there can be other intros to other shows, but on Friday, I always play the Harmony Boys, the Barbershop Boys. I think that's one of the best intros. I love that. I'm sorry. Am I biased? Yes. Hold on a minute.
I both get feedback from listeners that they love it.
You know, I appreciate that. I didn't have your button punched in for a minute. Okay, what did you say again?
I said, you don't need to apologize for loving that, Brad, because listeners love it too, based on the feedback we get. And I love the new country version. Was that one of them there Jason Aldean songs, Brad, about yard signs suck?
Sounds like it, doesn't it? Okay, that's John Combest, C-O-M-B-E-S-T. I spell it because of the fact you need to go to his website, johncombest.com. Every single day for 22 plus years, he puts together a list of what he feels are the top stories, sometimes 20, 30, 40, sometimes even more, top stories in the country, in the state of Missouri. Now, you won't find any fancy graphics, no videos, anything like that. It's really down and dirty, very LGT, low graphic technology kind of website, sort of like an aggregation site for the state of Missouri. We bring him on in the morning every single day, Monday through Friday, and we start off the show. And on Fridays, we bring in the Polka Boys.
Time for the John Combest Top 3.
And we bring John Combest front and center as he, I got to turn this down a little bit, as he gives us the top 3 stories of what's going on in the state of Missouri, in his opinion. Now, we bring in this other guy. What's his name again?
I'm Casey Kasem.
And his job is to...
Now on with the countdown.
Has a countdown, and he starts off with...
In third place...
A story we first talked about in March, Brad, that got national and indeed global attention. A fight outside Hazelwood East High School on the street that Brad used to live. Claudine.
I did.
In beautiful and now affordable Spanish Lake. Kaylee Gain, a young white woman, was attacked by a young black woman named Maurnice Declue. Maurnice Declue is now home, Brad. She is no longer in juvenile detention. She is now home with her parents. And the charge has gone from first-degree assault to second-degree assault. So, Brad, back when this happened on March 8th, you and I talked about what we anticipated happening. And I think we both said that Maurnice Declue would get a stern talking to and a gentle tap on the wrist. And that's exactly what happened, isn't it, Brad?
Sure seems like it. And you know, I don't, isn't she like under house arrest? She can't leave her house or something like that?
Yeah, I think, let me look here for exactly what the terms are. I'm sorry, I apologize because I didn't have exactly in front of me. I think she essentially has to stay home with her parents, and her parents have to know where she is at all times, which, by the way, seems to be the anti-crime message of St. Louis Mayor Tashara Jones, but that's a different story. It says Maurnice will be under court supervision. I love, by the way, how they use her first name. She's not just Declue, but she's Maurnice. Will be under court supervision for at least 6 months. will complete community service, and will work with a mentor assigned by the court. She'll have occasional hearings, Brad, so that a juvenile judge can track her progress and decide when the supervision will end. So hopefully it'll just be like 6 months or so, and then she can go out, and if anybody else crosses her, she can give them a little skull tap, Brad.
No, now is she going back to school, or is that not part of the deal?
Well, it's not clear from the story. Her attorney says that her number one wish is that it says right now, I think she's enjoying being at home with her family. The attorney said she's busy. Go ahead, Brad.
No, I was coughing, John. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. She said the quote is, quote, she just wants to go back to school. That's the biggest thing. Now, to play devil's advocate, Brad, I do think in a situation like this, keeping this young human, Maurnice, isolated, I don't know, honestly, if that's the best thing for her. And that's sarcasm aside. I mean, I don't know if isolating her from friends is the best thing you could do. That might make the situation worse. I hate to sound like a complete pinko communist here, but there has to be some medium in between keeping other students safe and allowing her to socialize with her friends. So I know it's hard in cases like this.
Interesting. Okay. Number 2.
Up a notch to number 2.
It's unique, Brad. Bernie Sanders, the venerated socialist icon, is paying a little bit of attention to St. Louis as it relates to a certain business around here. Did you see the story, Brad?
I did not.
Okay. Well, Bernie Sanders has a committee, and they just put out a report. The committee report focuses on, the name of the committee is the U.S. Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee. And long story short, Brad, you know how unions are trying to get Amazon workers to unionize?
Right.
So the Amazon workers out in where exactly is that facility in St. Peters, Brad? Do you know exactly where it is?
Yeah, it's on the north side of 70 out there in like all the industrial parks out there.
Okay. So workers out there have been complaining about conditions for a while. You know, the unions are helping pitch the story to the media. There have been a number of concerns. And long story short, Bernie Sanders and his committee put together a report that shows nationwide Amazon allegedly is underreporting the injuries that take place at their facility. Apparently, when someone is injured, if the worker has to get more than just go to the first aid box, Amazon is supposed to report this to OSHA. According to the Bernie Sanders committee report, Amazon is underreporting the injuries that take place. And this piece from St. Louis Public Radio credits this group called STL8 for bringing this to national attention. They tell a really riveting story here. They find I don't know if I would call her elderly white woman. She's definitely postmenopausal. She tells a story of how she was trying to reach something high on a shelf, Brad, and it fell on her. And that's definitely Amazon's fault. And that she also has a lot of repetitive motion injury. She developed carpal tunnel. That's also Amazon's fault. And then a year ago, I have a helpful link up because a year ago, last June, the same content creator, Andrea Henderson, who, by the way, is assigned to the race, identity, and culture beat, she pointed out that a 19-year-old former deck worker, somebody that worked on the loading dock, talked about how when she was working on the loading dock, she was expected to, quote, constantly move her hands and feet, and she was expected to work on a concrete surface. So these are harrowing circumstances, Brad. I don't know why anybody would think that Amazon should put a loading dock worker on a concrete surface and make them repetitively move their hands and feet. So hopefully the bottom line of this is some national attention from Bernie Sanders will help unions organize some folks out of Amazon, and finally Amazon workers can, work on softer surfaces, maybe not move as much, and enjoy the benefits of a union.
John, I am literally shocked that a warehouse would have a concrete floor. I mean, you hear these kind of things, you go like, okay, hold on a minute. If you've ever worked in a warehouse, there's a concrete floor there because guess what? it has to be concrete because you roll things across it. You roll pallet jacks and things like that. It doesn't work too well on carpet. You know what I'm saying? Or it
Well,
does.
why can't they just, to play devil's advocate, Brad, why couldn't you just put, the soft stuff that these little pansy kids play on now at playgrounds?
Right,
like
right.
this kind of plastic mulch?
Right.
When you and I were kids, well, they didn't have playgrounds when you were a kid, but when I was a kid, we could fall on concrete and we were just fine and we got over it. And now these kids play on plastic mulch. Why can't we just make why can't we just make it like a bounce house? You could have a little bit of mulch at the loading dock and the rest of it could be like a bounce house.
Well, no, not not like bounce house, but have a literal bounce house where you have a big old air compressor that the whole floor is like floating. See, now here's what's interesting. I have a friend of mine, and I'll get in trouble by saying her age when she worked there at Amazon. But let me put it to you this way. She was in her late 60s, okay?
Oh, wow,
And
okay.
she worked there for about 6 months and loved every second of it and talks about going. Matter of fact,
Really? What was it about the environment that she liked?
well, this particular person is in excellent shape, and she talked about the fact it was like getting paid to work out. And
Wow, nice.
What she did was, a lot of what she did was exactly what you were just talking about, where she did the pallet jacks, and she would go into the back of the tractor trailers and push the pallet jack underneath the pallet and crank it up and pull it out of the back of the tractor trailer, and somebody would come along with a forklift and off it would go, and that's what she did. And she talked about that she had a lot of camaraderie with the people there, everybody, that she enjoyed working the job. And what's interesting is they call her from time to time and essentially say, hey, would you like to come back and work? Now, the reason she quit is because of the fact that she's got grandkids and she travels quite a bit. So she did this in the off season. She did it I think she did it from October through about March or April, and then when the spring broke and things like that happened, she left. And she's not the only one. I know a couple other people that have worked out there. Matter of fact, I know one guy that works out there right now part time. Matter of fact, for years, a guy that used to work for me. This is not Amazon, but one of the guys that worked for me part time, guy by the name of Buzz Carlson.
Buzz Eckelkamp.
No,
Yeah, I know
no.
him.
Buzz Ulrich is his real name. Buzz Carlson. He worked what they call the night sort out at UPS, and he loved it. I mean,
Brad, it's funny you mentioned that because I have a friend that doesn't work at Amazon, but they work at an unnamed corporation. Brad, they work on a loading dock. This gentleman, who's a friend of mine, has, he's not the typical, if you had to stereotype a dock worker, he has a college degree. He used to work in the sort of public arena, I guess you could call it. Anyway, decided to get a job that he didn't have to take, office work home with him at night. He loves it. And secondly, Brad, when I see him, he's jacked now.
I'm telling you.
And he makes more money now. He makes more money today working on the loading dock than he did working in a boring desk job before he got this job.
Well, the woman that I'm talking about has 2 college degrees and used to be an international business executive. I mean, this woman, if you see her passport, I think she's on passport number 2 or number 3 or something like that. She's been around the world several times. And once again, she loved it. And she talks about, I'm thinking about going back to Amazon. What's crazy about this is, sometimes, and I'm not trying to get into the union busting mode, but there was a time when the unions had a really good point of view that there were a lot of facilities that were unsafe. Okay. And that was one of the things that unions really pushed back in the day. Safe working conditions, not working 22 hours a day, that kind of stuff. But now with all the OSHA regulations, all the federal regulations, I mean, the union stuff is just sort of moot. You know what I mean? As far as the safety is concerned.
I think there's still some safety stuff. I think Amazon could probably, for example, in this woman's case, Amazon should at least have their shelf area be anti-gravity. Because a postmenopausal woman should by herself try to get something off a high shelf and not be subjected to gravity, Brad. I mean, we know that gravity affects women once they start reaching about 35, right? That's what keeps the bra industry moving. But Brad, we're getting close to number 1. I mean, usually they come in pairs, with all due respect to people who've had mastectomies. Can we get into number 1, Brad?
Hold on a minute, John.
John's anti-gravity headlines.
No, okay. Let me John says his MCP things. Here's what John really meant when he's talking about, he didn't mean the anti-gravity thing. What he meant was that the woman should say, honey, I can't reach this. Can you help me get it? That's what should happen, right? Okay, now.
Yeah, I think so.
Number one.
Okay, number one.
Governor Mike Parson has finally made his endorsement official. Who did he endorse in the governor's race, Brad?
I think he endorsed, was it Bill Eigel?
He endorsed Chris Wright. Just joking. He did indeed endorse his lieutenant governor, Mike Kehoe. Now you say, John, everybody knew this was coming. Everybody knew that this was going to happen. And you're right. Everybody knew it that was involved in Missouri politics. But I think we should point out that most normal people are not paying attention to politics as closely as many of us who listen to this show are. And it will get headlines. The Kansas City Star has a piece up today that talks about the endorsement of Mike Kehoe. It also talks about the fact that Mike Kehoe supported the gasoline tax way back in, I believe it was 2018. Again, it's another fact that we take at face value of, well, everybody knows already that Kehoe supported a gas tax. But I think there's going to be a lot of Republican primary voters that today, on July 19th, might not know that. So the governor also endorsed officially AG Andrew Bailey and State Treasurer Vivek Malik. The governor has made it clear in a conversation he had with Scott Vaughn on a This Week in Missouri Politics midweek update that he is going to support the people that supported him. And I think the governor's words were something to the effect on, if I've called on people to help me when I needed them, I'm going to be there when they need me. So the endorsement is official. And I guess really if you're the Ashcroft and the Eigel campaign, you say, of course, this was already built in. Everybody knows this. Who cares? So that's the top story, Brad.
You know, I have to tell you, John, when I go into that voting booth, I think to myself, okay, who endorsed this person I'm potentially voting for? Oh, okay, well, I'm voting for this person because they got endorsed by whomever. Once again, I think you sort of gave the disclaimer there. Does anybody really care? I mean, do most people care? Well, what does Governor Parson say about Vivek Malik? You know what I mean?
I think it would be a little bit of if you were already predisposed to a candidate and you saw that the governor endorsed him, it would be a little bit of if you have a little confirmation bias, you'd be like, well, yeah, of course the governor endorses him, and I'm with him too. The main thing I look at, Brad, is who is advertising on WPSD in Paducah, Kentucky, and if somebody's not running ads there, I know they're not serious. And indeed, yesterday, we talked about the fact that in B Block, we are today going to be prepared, and we're going to go through which candidates are purchasing television ads on Paducah, Kentucky television.
John just doesn't let go of things. He's like...
Now, Brad, you get credit for bringing that up on the show yesterday.
Yeah.
You brought up the page, and you indeed revealed that Mike Hamra, running in the Democratic primary for governor, has purchased ads on WPSD. You started to tell us which Secretary of State's candidates have purchased ads, and then you interrupted yourself, and I let you interrupt yourself. And I said, hey, why don't we continue this in B Block tomorrow? So if people are listening on YouTube, go to B Block for today, July 19th, and you're about to hear who's advertising on WPSD.
Or maybe not, whatever the case may be. Okay, we have to take a break. Let me try that again. We have to take a break.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?